Hey guys, this is another Keima video. What we're going to be going over today is patch 5.4 Resto Druid stat weights and overall talent usage on a fight-to-fight basis. So for starters, to start with stat weights, there are two builds that you can go for with your Resto Druid, and it's a 6,652 haste point build. And then the second one is a 13,163 haste breakpoint build. The difference between the two is the 13,163 haste breakpoint build is actually better, but you can't gear for it until you have a pretty substantially high item level. So for example, I know myself, I didn't choose to go towards that until I was about 550 because I had the extra stats where I could afford to go for that. And then the other one, it's better for lower item level simply because you'd have to sacrifice so many stats to be able to hit that haste breakpoint. So on my character right now, I'm running the 13,163 haste breakpoint. As you can see, a lot of my gear is going to be reforged to haste, although now I'm actually starting to be able to put my gems and other things into a little bit of mastery, because mastery is ultimately going to be what you want. Yeah, reforge crit to haste, mastery to haste, no reforge on that, flat haste is nice, spirit to mastery. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about right there. I have enough haste that I can afford to actually put some of my points into mastery instead, which is nice. Basically, what I use to actually calculate my stats and make my gemming and reforging super tidy and accurate specifically is I use a little website called Ask Mr. Robot. AskMrRobot.com it's good, although granted it's not always the best. Sometimes you'll distrust it, you'll want to question it, but ultimately more or less it's really good, it's really helpful. So when you go to AskMrRobot.com, you're going to see a box called Optimize Your Character. You're going to click that, and then you're going to get asked your region, your server, and your name. You're going to want to put in all the accurate information you can, and then click Get Character. It's going to open up your character sheet along with its stat sheet. And then in the top left corner, you're going to notice there's a load and a save and a update button. You're going to click Update just so that it's using the most accurate information it can possibly use. From there, you're going to want to go to the Optimize tab just below and essentially just follow exactly what it tells you to do. It's pretty straightforward. Everything in green is going to be what you want to put in that gear slot. So for example, if I were to look at my helmet on Ask Mr. Robot, it would tell me to put in my legendary meta and I believe that's Reckless Vermilion Onyx. I think that's Reckless Vermilion Onyx. That's what it told me to put in, and I followed that for all my gear. I personally use Ask Mr. Robot. It's really good. I haven't had any problems with it yet. And that's as simple as that. In terms of gemming and stat weights, you're probably just going to want to follow AskMrRobot.com. However, there's one thing that you need to be aware of. If you look in the top part of the screen, you're going to see it says PvE default 5.4 build, or something along those lines. If you have a low item level, follow it religiously, follow that one religiously. But if you have like a 545 or higher-ish item level, you can actually click the drop-down window and select the one just underneath it. It'll be, I believe, T14 plus. I think that's what it says. I would follow that one. That one's really good. But, and only but, you will want to edit some of the things on there just to tweak it properly. This is the current build that I use, and it's really solid. I've gotten a lot of really good output with it. Basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click that drop down menu, open up the PvE T14 plus, select it, it'll reload the page, and then you'll see right beside it there's an edit weights option. Click the edit weights option. It's going to open up another window, and it's going to have a whole bunch of stuff on the left, a whole bunch of your stats on the left, and then it's going to have a box that says Haste Soft Cap. You're going to want to click Change Soft Cap. And then you'll see there's a little chart right there. It's got a whole bunch of numbers. It's got rating, spell, ticks, and total haste. you're going to want to fall down all the way to the 13,163 mark. That's going to be your next tier of haste that you want to make it, because that's really solid. It gives you 2+ ticks on your rejuve, and if anyone's healed in any type of high stress AoE fights, that's huge. That makes your rejuve so much faster that you're going to want to always go with this. So if you hover your mouse over it, you're going to notice it makes it a little darker. You're going to want to click it, and it'll set your haste breakpoint to that. Although actually, open up the change soft cap again, because I just want to make sure that you cover this. You'll see on the left it's got spells, passive buffs, and temporary buffs. Make sure all the temporary buffs are unchecked. The only passive buff that's going to be checked is spell haste, although if you're a goblin, but I mean you're a druid, you can't be a goblin, you would obviously click the 1% goblin spell haste. And then aside from that, the only thing you want to track is rejuvenation, tranquility, and swiftman wild growth on your spells. That's all sorted. Go back, click the 13,163 option. After that, you're going to notice just below the haste soft cap, there's actually a spirit soft cap. What this is going to do is you can enter the spirit you want to aim for, and then it'll prioritize every other stat after spirit has reached that number. So for mine, I always put 15,000. 15,000 is a very comfortable spirit margin for me. If I have fights where I'm struggling, I can always just use a spirit elixir, or flask rather, and it's not that bad. On some fights I find I have excess mana, so I'll even run a intellect flask. Make sure when you enter your spirit soft cap that you have static spirit checked. Don't check total effective spirit. If you check total effective spirit, it's going to throw everything out the window. It's going to count trinket procs, group procs, stuff like that, and it's it ruins everything. Just don't click it. Make sure you have static spirit checked. After all that's done, it's pretty straightforward. You just click save, and that'll actually save your custom weights. You may or may not have to re-enter these occasionally. Ask Mr. Robot's funky like that. It sometimes just resets it. But otherwise, every time you come back to the website, it'll follow your custom weights, which is really nice, so you have that preset saved almost indefinitely. And then you go to the optimize page, it'll tell you what needs to be changed, etc. You just follow it, make sure you have all your reforges, your gems, and your enchants proper. And from there, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You've got your character to the best of its ability at that point. Now, what comes next is talents. Talents are kind of important, and I say kind of only because they're usually changed on a fight-to-fight basis. So for example, right now, I have Displacer Beast, Ysera's Gift, Typhoon, Soul of Forest, Disorienting Roar, Nature's Vigil. However, Mighty Bash is good on fights like Heroic Nazgrim. It's actually good on Garrosh too. However, Disorienting Roar sometimes is better on Garrosh simply because if the mind control people pop up on top of you and they're not empowered, you can get both of them yourself and you don't have to, bother your DPS to get them. Nature's Vigil and Heart of the Wild, that's a little bit of a controversial one. Heart of the Wild is like really good almost 100% of the time. However, there are times where you just find yourself never actually popping it. Like, you'll either forget or you'll be like, my group's got it, whatever. So if that's the case, then I mean, you could always run Nature's Vigil just for the higher number output. The only thing I would warn about Nature's Vigil is on a fight like Nazgrim. If you pop it when he's in defensive stance, you will be doing damage to Nazgrim and you will be increasing his rage. That's kind of a problem. So on Nazgrim, you can still run it on Nazgrim, but be careful about when you use it. Other than that, situations where I find Heart of the Wild is actually good is on fights like... you can do it on nearly any fight, you can use it to DPS on any fight, but the one I find it the most useful is Narushan. And the reason I say Narushan is the most useful is because when you go into the phase, when you go into the Golden Orb phase, you pop it, you make sure you heal the 3 guys that are with you, and then you pop Heart of the Wild, and you kill your thing just as fast as the DPS would. So you and your DPS get out almost at this exact same time, and it's perfect. Heart of the Wild just speeds up that phase so much faster. And then the only thing really that's, I guess, worth covering... Actually, no, there's 2 things that are worth covering. Force of Nature, if you want to run it, you can. I'm not going to say you can't run what you want because it's your character. Do whatever you want. but I would say Force of Nature is kind of on the lower end in terms of what you should be using. I would almost recommend never using it, but however, I can see why it would be good on some fights. Incarnation has its uses, and specifically I'll run Incarnation on fights like Immersius, because you could just pop it and then instantly heal like 5 globs yourself. It's really not... it makes Immersius 10 times easier, at least on the split phase. However, on practically every other fight that doesn't need Incarnation, you would want to run Soul of the Forest. And the reason you'd want to run Soul of the Forest is because it makes your Wild Growth almost double as good as what it is now. If you think Wild Growth is strong just as it is, well, Soul of the Forest is going to completely blow that out of the water. Fights that Soul of the Forest is good on are... It can be good on Immersius, depending if you're doing it on Heroic or not. It can be good on Narushan. It's actually really good on Narushan, depending on the strat you use, but it's really strong on Narushan. It's decent on Shaw of Pride. It's solid on Galacrast, solid on Iron Juggernaut. It's actually really good on Iron Juggernaut. It's decent on Dark Shamans. Dark Shamans you could run Incarnation, or Soul of the Forest, or Force of Nature. Dark Shamans is pretty standard, you can run anything. Nazgrim, it's decent. Nazgrim's not necessarily a high damage fight, so it doesn't really matter either way. Malkorok, it's really good. Malkorok, it's insanely good. And then Spoils, Spoils is just like healing a heroic dungeon. You just heal your group, it doesn't really matter. Thok though, Thok is the biggest possible fight this could be a benefit on. The amount of AoE healing that it does on Thok is tremendous, and I guess I'll show you why in a moment. Need to change an option. Interface, floating combat text, healing. Okay. So, basically, this is what Wild Growth ticks for now. Not actually showing up. Boo. Enable. Try that. Let's try that now. Okay. This is what Wild Growth ticks for. You know, seems fast, right? Wrong. It can get faster, and this is why Wild Growth is so good, especially with Soul of the Forest. It makes it so much faster. Just look at the sheer amount of numbers that popped up in comparison. It effectively doubles what Wild Growth heals normally, and all you need to do is Swift Mend Wild Growth. So if you run Soul of the Forest, every time you Swift Mend, I would almost always immediately follow it up with a Wild Growth. I can't stress enough how good Soul of the Forest is, especially on Thok. And on Thok, I would probably run Nature's Vigil, because, if you want to push that first phase, having as many cooldowns as possible is the best. Another thing to note, actually, about Soul of the Forest, and a lot of people are going to love this, if you use your Swift Mend, you get that proc, you get the Soul of the Forest proc, you can Trank. It heals the exact same amount as a normal Trank, but in less than half the time. That is huge. That is so huge. I can't even... There have been times on Thok where my group's been at 20% apiece, and it's like, okay, one more Deafening Screech and we're gonna die. Pop Swift Mend and then pop Trank and they're back at full health in 2 seconds. And they're like, wait, what? What happened? It's like, I have a talent and I utilized it. And that is why Soul of the Forest is the shit. I would recommend Soul of the Forest on pretty much every fight, just because of how solid it is regardless. The last thing, and it's probably it has the least impact, would probably be Displacer Beast. And the only reason I run Displacer Beast and not Feline Swiftness is simply because I'm quick about using it when I need to. If you would say that you're not very good at using something like this to its fullest potential, I would say just go Feline Swiftness, because having a passive 15% increase is always nice. But Displacer Beast really helps on fights such as Immersius, because it makes getting to those globs that are spread out really quickly really nice. It's good on Narushan to a certain extent, because if the beam's on you, you can panic button and get off. Or out of the beam, rather. Shaw of Pride, kind of good. The only time I could see you using it is if Swelling Pride comes and you have above 25 stacks, or 25 Pride. And Galacrass, if you're on towers, actually, this is nice. On Galacrass on towers, you can jump off and then displace your beast before you hit the ground. You won't take any damage. Although, granted, you'll probably be running Feline Grace anyway. Yeah, Glyph of Grace. But it's still good. Iron Juggernaut, kind of, maybe kind of good. You can use it to teleport and get back to the boss quicker, although if you're unorganized, you shouldn't have to. Or if you are organized, you shouldn't have to. On Dark Shamans, 50-50. I mean, if there's something underneath you, you can get out of it quick, which is nice. Nazgrim, not so much. Nazgrim would be the fight. I mean, if you really, really want to be critical about it and you can't move out of things quick enough, I would use Feline Swiftness then. Malkorok, though. Malkorok, it's really good, because if the pools are really, really far away, you know, teleport into them. It's nice. Spoils, yeah, 50-50 again. It doesn't really make a difference. Thok, it's actually really good. If Thok fixates you, you can instantly teleport and get as much distance as possible while he's still far away, while he's still getting adjusted to chasing you. Siegecrafter, it's good. It can teleport out of the shock blast that comes. You don't get knocked up or anything, that's nice. You can teleport out of the beam that comes too. You can teleport out of the saw blades, or you can teleport back to get as much distance from the boss with those saw blades as you possibly can. Klaxi, I don't think it makes a difference on Klaxi really, but then Garrosh, it makes a huge difference, and I love it on Garrosh, because if your group's doing the, you know, standard, stand in one place, Desecrate Weapon comes out, move to next place, if you're doing that, all you have to do is turn and press a button, and you're out. You're not even in the Desecrated Weapon, and that's so huge, and the reason I say it's so huge is because the more time you spend moving, the less time you actually have to heal. If you use Displacer Beast, I mean, no movement. You pressed one button, you're good. Now you can start healing again, and that essentially just saves your group in general. Other times it's good on Garrosh. Probably be during Whirling Corruption, when the ads come out, the Empowered Whirling Corruption. Because, I mean, granted, you should always just be moving out of the puddles in general, but I mean, again, it's a panic button. It gets you out of stuff, which is essentially what it boils down to. And that's why I like running Displacer Beast over Feline Swiftness. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. Just get your stat weights proper. Do what's comfortable for you. And okay, I'm gonna be completely biased about this. Run Soul of the Forest. Please just run Soul of the Forest. I think you'll really start to like it. Aside from that, that's pretty much as I know in terms of, you know, gemming, enchanting, and then talents. Any other things to cover? Probably be glyphs, actually. There's only really one glyph that's super crucial, and it would be Sprouting Mushroom. I used to not run this, and I was a scrub, so I didn't run it, but it makes placing your mushroom so nice. Because not having this, you have to place it under a target. Like, swapping to targets is a pain in the ass, let's be real. But having the capability to place it anywhere is fine. Like, that just makes it so much easier. You can actually use it as, like, a marker for your group to transition to, etc., etc. It's got a ton of utility. And as far as glyphs go, I mean, that's the only one that's like 100% needed. I run Wild Growth though, or Glyph of Wild Growth, just to get that one extra person in it. It actually does influence the numbers just a little bit in terms of Wild Growth output with this, but at the same time, I mean, you do get a 2-second cooldown, so it's entirely preference. Glyph of Efflorescence, that is also nice. You do need this. It works in correspondence to Glyph of Spreading Mushroom. You're pretty much required to have these two glyphs. If you don't, you're in trouble. You're gonna have a rough time. But aside from that, that's all I run. That's pretty much it. In terms of rating add-ons for healing, the thing I would recommend is what exactly I run, which is I run a combination of LVY and Click. Click is spelled a little different. It's C-L-I-Q-U-E. It is a very nice add-on. It essentially turns your standard raid frames into a heal bot. So for example, if I didn't have click, me selecting myself right here, I'm clicking on it, nothing's happening. But if I have click, I can do a combination or, a combination click that Healbot would normally have. Like for example, on Healbot, I know I used control click, shift click, alt click, control right click, shift right click, alt right click, right? I use all of them. With click, it turns my standard frames into a Healbot. So my shift left click, regrowth, my shift right click, rejuve, my control left click, swift mend. Everything is available, and I don't need a second party add-on like Healbot or Voodoo. And the reason that I don't run Healbot or Voodoo, because I know everyone's probably thinking, well, why don't you just run Healbot or Voodoo? Well, it's because if you've ever used them, you kind of notice that there's a little bit of a delay in terms of the actual damage that's been output, and then the add-on itself refreshing and showing you this damage. There have been times where my tank has been hovering at like 2% health, but Healbot's been saying he's at 100% because it's not registering fast enough. And with LVUI, I mean, LVUI is completely cosmetic, but it gets you a good raid frame, gets you nice clean raid frames, and those raid frames update because they're directly linked from the server. There's no second party add-on that updates these. It's if someone takes damage, you see it instantly, which is entirely why I like it. And then again, cosmetics, I mean, it looks really, really nice. So basically, I run LVUI for the cosmetics, and then I run click for the utility it brings to making my cosmetic LVUI look really nice. And as far as add-ons go, that's pretty much all I use. I don't use decursive, anything like that. My LVUI pretty much covers all of that. The LVUI bundle, that is. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or anything to say, please let me know. I'm always down to talk about druids, and I mean, if I'm wrong, and you know I'm wrong, and you think I'm a shitter, tell me. Because if it's knowledge I don't know, I want to know. And as far as that's concerned, everything's pretty much done. I hope you guys liked the guide. If you did like it and you found it helpful, I mean, feel free to show it to all your druid friends. Give a like, maybe subscribe. There's going to be more of these. I'm planning on forcing my friend to do a DK guide, a blood DK guide. And that'll be something to look forward to. Yep, that's pretty much it. Take it easy.